Right. I'm gonna read the meeting notice and call roll. Hopefully we'll have more join us. The rain lets up out there. And not be scooped up in a tornado. Okay, please be advised, there'll be a full meeting of the Medford Township High School Building Committee in person at East 489. At 49 Medford Street and via participation. The meeting can be viewed live on Medford Public Schools YouTube channel, through Medford Media on Google cable channel, just Comcast 9, 8, or 22, and Verizon 43, 45, or 47. This meeting is recorded. Participants can log or call in by using the following information. Zoom meeting ID is 999-0039-9763. I will go ahead and call the roll. Jenny Graham here, Mayor Lungo Kern, absent. Dr. Lucy here, Artie Cabral is absent. Joan Bowen here. Ken Lord here. Libby Brown is absent. Marissa Desmond. Maria Dorsey. Hilliard. Emily Lazaro.
Here.
Hello. Here. Nicole Morel, absent. Aaron Olpade.
Here.
Present. Bob Dickinson. Fiona Maxwell. Chad Fallon.
Here.
Kim Tabbett. Here. Wilton Maselli.
Here.
Lori Hodgson. Matt Laughlin. Paul Rousseau.
Here.
Bill Santos. Lisa Miller. Here. We have 8 present. 7 absent, we have 4, so we will call the meeting to order. The first item of business for us is approval of the meeting minutes, stated 6/10. There were 2 small adjustments made, to correct, speaker and their address and to clarify one of the comments. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion to approve or a second.
Seconded by Emily. Any questions about the minutes? Okay, call the roll. Jenny Graham, yes. Mayor Lungo Kern, absent. Dr. Galusi. Yes. Marty Cabral, absent. John Owen. Yes. Ken Lord.
Yes.
Libby Brown. Marissa Desmond. Maria Dorsey. Brian Hilliard. Emily Lazaro.
Yes. Yes.
Paul Malone.
Yes.
Nicole Morel. Aaron Olpade.
Yes.
Lou Preisner.
Yes.
8 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, 7 absent, the minutes are approved.
Very vicious.
Oh, welcome, Mayor.
Hi,
Okay.
good evening.
The next item on the agenda, I wanted to do a little bit of framing, before we, go to the motion. So, as you'll know, the city summary is enormous. And we have work to do that we've been talking about in terms of, continuing to look at every single space and every single nook and cranny in this building or close to the building. And figure out, does it all belong there in this way? In addition to that, we have some hinge decisions that we'll have to make. So for example, are we going for an auditorium that's 1,000 square feet, 1,000 seats, 800 seats, 750 seats, or 500 seats? So over the course of the next several meetings, we're taking each of those pieces in like bite-sized chunks so that the attempt is to spread out those conversations. And so at each meeting, we will focus on some portion of the space summary. By header, so there's header on the space summary, so we'll take them like section by section. And then we will focus on a particular program. So we might, for example, in one meeting, talk about the teen health center and weigh in and make a decision about, does that continue to go forward or does that get removed? So as we go through this next phase, and the team starts meeting with all of the educators to talk about things like adjacencies, what programs are near each other, where is this in the building? what's on the fifth floor versus the fourth floor, all of those things, out of that work is inevitably going to come opportunity for us to say, we should nip here, we should talk there, that kind of thing. So, that's to come. We're working on a schedule that actually will lay out exactly what's happening at exactly which meeting, coming up. And we'll publish that soon, but we are trying to sort of lay into that schedule also, things like, will there be listening sessions with the city council and the school committee? And what is the election calendar? And how does all of that have to sort of stack into the calendar between now and really this time next year? So for tonight, what we wanted to do was frame the efficiency discussion and sort of give you all a model for how we intend to do this section by section. The motion itself says, be it resolved that the Mchsbc authorize the following space efficiencies to be incorporated into the PSR mission. These space efficiencies were identified through conversations that have begun to plan program adjacencies within our CTE program. So I'm going to let Dr. Lucy talk about these specific items, but before we do, are there any questions about the go forward plan, do this like space, this review of space efficiencies? Luke?
Sure, so we had a large number of space efficiency proposals on April 28th. And to avoid, I'll say redundant work, has there been any effort to audit these and future proposals and map them to the April 28th list?
Yeah.
So that you don't have to look at anything twice.
Yeah, so that's part of the work the programming team is doing, so they are taking everything that was tabled. As they work with the educators in those particular areas, they are looking at those and that and all of the things that are going on educationally, what are the right things for them to bring forward, and those are the packages that are forward. So that list will be insted by the project team and the educators, and some portion of them already have been adopted, some maybe tonight. But yeah, that's the plan, is that all of that input goes to the educators so they can weigh, how does that fit with the rest of the conversation around space efficiency?
So I was asking if there's going to be an auditing function, so that we don't, I guess, consider things twice. There was a very long list of proposals.
Well, those are on the table.
And there's some on the table today, and but we just heard there's that more on the table on the summer. And so I'm asking about the auditing function that maps today's and future against the ones from April 28, so that we don't have to look at any particular ones. Is
So-
that pointing to our work stream?
So when something is on the table, it is not for discussion here. The things that are on the agenda tonight are for consideration. The things that are on the table are like on ice, right? So if we want to take them off ice, they need to come to an agenda. What I'm saying is that will happen if those things are deemed educationally appropriate as these conversation educators come forward. So there's no plan to bring them all forward. There is a plan to bring forward those things that the educators and the project team work through together. And they will also, to the best that they can, tick and tag that original list of items that were largely submitted by you. So yes, they will do that, but that's not the focus of the exercise. The focus of the exercise is the educational review of the spaces. Does that answer your question?
Only part of your answer to my question. They are going to take it at the top. It can be as simple as cross off. What I'm trying to prevent is looking at the same thing twice.
We
I understand.
will not be looking at the same thing twice. So we will look at what's on the posted agenda each time the agenda comes to us. That's what we do.
Well, I'm just asking if someone's gonna mark off the one.
Yes, the answer is yes.
That was the
Yeah.
question.
Yes. Okay. Dr. Lucy, would you like to frame these proposed changes?
Sure thing. So on that same meeting, on April 27th meeting, the district proposed a series of reductions, redundancies. And as part of that list, I know that there were some things that overlapped with us. So as part of that list and presentation, I put forward to the project team their review for certain CTE spaces. And specifically, part of that review was around the toilets, the offices, because they have related classroom space. So I asked them to review specifically some of the space that may be duplication or redundant, and specifically just in the offices. So what you have in front of you this evening, it is the culminating result of their review. And I'm not quite sure if you want me to talk through it, or if you would like to talk through the review,
Yeah, I'm happy.
what you came up with.
Sure.
Okay.
Yes, up on screen is the list of the items that Dr. Poulos suggested, and then we sort of vetted through a process as well to make sure that it works with sort of the ed plan and how things were going to be. I think what's important about these items is none of them actually directly touch the ed plan, and I think that's a commonality that we'll be looking at as we go through this process even over the summer, because the ed plan has been approved now by school committee in terms of its most recent iteration that happened on this past Monday. So what we're gonna be doing is looking for efficiencies, and I think there are efficiencies to be found. These that are first at the top of the list, the first four, really look at trying to combine individual toilet rooms for the CTE shops. They have dedicated toilet rooms in some cases. Students, we don't want them heading out into the school because they're working on things that are getting them dirty. And that lost time on where to go find the nearest bathroom and come back is not something that we typically look for. And that's why I had dedicated bathrooms. But as we move forward in the process and we understand more about where two adjacent programs might be that could share those toilet facilities and those changing facilities, the changing facilities are down below. We can eliminate one of those, right? So we're not taking them all away. We're not shifting them somewhere else, but we find some efficiency by just thinking about how they're going to be paired up within the building and the design going forward. Something that we just didn't have as we started into the process before we had a plan and just didn't know where we could fit different programs. So we were being a little bit more conservative there, but we think that this is a good approach given where we are now, you know, about the building in terms of being able to pull back on both the shared toilet rooms as well as the shared changing facilities. There's also the loft areas that currently exist in some of the high bay shops, not all of them, but there are some that have loft spaces. When we originally generated the space summary list, we were just trying to replicate, not exactly, but give that resource. At the same time, I think that resource was deemed like not the most ideal in terms of storage opportunities, because you end up having to lift things up and put things away. So it sort of becomes a little bit like an attic space, Chad. I don't know if that's a good description for how they get used. And so we're not suggesting that storage space goes away entirely, but it basically will shift down onto the shop floor where there's live stock that can be pulled, whether it's conduit and electrical or it's wood, 2x and carpentry, something like that. It'll be more accessible and it will not lend itself being an attic space because we need to get clean and organized on the shop floor from a safety perspective. So that the loft space is what got pulled out. We also looked at reducing the size of the related rooms slightly. So not every CTE program, but most of the CTE programs have a dedicated related room goes through. It's a classroom essentially that's adjacent to space, the shop space. They were previously sized at 950 square feet, which matches the academic classroom size. I think we'll probably look at that classroom size as well moving forward, but the realization that look to make those classrooms 950 square feet, which is the upper end of what the Mchsbc allows for classrooms, to really facilitate the co-teaching model, where we have a special educator in the room with the general educator at the same time. And so there's potentially more adults in the room, more space that's needed to deliver that whole, because that wouldn't be an exactly similar model in terms of what the related rooms are doing and the number of students that are going to be potentially in the related rooms. It made sense to think about that 100 square foot reduction. It will still allow 850 square feet is the lower end of what the Mchsbc allows, so they give a range of 850 to 950. But it will still allow the early rooms to potentially be used, for academic classes, during scheduling, in the afternoons when those are not being used. We maintain that flexibility from a scheduling and utilization standpoint by gaining some efficiency there. And then lastly, we pulled out the CTE shop offices. And so this is something that we had in the program. Look to be somewhat conservative in terms of the planning for things. I know during the program meetings with instructors, a lot of instructors told us they wouldn't really prefer to have the office, but we were trying to be just future proofing and conservative on the approach. But we decided to go back and say, well, if people are not interested in the offices, we don't necessarily need to make them. We will provide locked desk and storage opportunities for sure within the shop space, so they have direct observation over the students there. So it's a collection of items, and that was generally the rationale. I missed the part piece of that.
Very clear. Thank you.
Any questions about the proposal?
Can I ask whether the delta,
Lou?
can I ask whether your delta sort of includes the 50% gross factor?
It
Or
does.
is it does?
It does, yes. Yeah, so I'll take that back in terms of the numbers that are up here. I don't believe that these are the straight numbers. They are with stuff in terms of when we were pulling it out of the space, right, though, and the updated estimates that you'll see.
Lisa?
Question about the office space, if one of the CTE teachers or the shop, for a shop, would like an office space, so for instance, carpenter might have a lot of desks, having a desk with a computer doesn't really make sense to have it on the shop floor. Or, the chefs in here, I don't know, if the shop floor would be in the kitchen or in the dining room, but it might not be appropriate to have a desk here there. Are those, if a teacher does want those, would that be possible to put back in for specific shops or?
Down the road, I think that's certainly something that can happen. So what Dr. Lucy had alluded to, when we come back in the fall, we'll be doing programming meetings with all the instructors, the 50 or so meetings that we had. And so that includes all the CT instructors. We'll go through a more detailed shop layout, actually has all the parts and pieces there in some way, and we'll take feedback at that point. So I think if we hear the feedback that one or two want offices, that would be something that we would react to and address as we get to that.
And I think no matter what, there'll be shared planning space, just as there is on the academic side. No matter what, there will be space for teachers to plan, grade, do the things that they need to do, as part of your role.
Any other questions about this proposal?
I'm just gonna add one thing, just so that we understand, it's like, sometimes the desk space, the office space for CT teachers is almost more like a business office in some ways, it's a little bit different than like a wheelchair dining space, I'm not saying that's valuable. Sometimes, there is like, things that need to be ordered, like food needs to be ordered, and it's more of like a business office. So it's not that I'm trying to say that planning space isn't important, but recognizing that there are differences with the needs of some. And my shop is not that kind of shop. But I think that there are shops, and so I just want to keep that in mind.
Thank you.
Other questions? Is there a motion to approve these space reductions?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Lou. Is there a second?
Second.
No? Okay, I'll call the roll. Jenny Graham, yes. Mayor Longo Kern.
Yes.
Dr. Galucci.
Yes.
Marty Cabral is absent. John Owen.
Yes.
Ken Lard.
Yes.
Libby Brown. Marissa Jessamine is absent. Maria Christie.
Yes.
Brian Hilliard.
Yes.
Emily Lazaro.
Yes.
Paul Moore.
Yes.
Paul Morrell is absent. Aaron Lopati.
Yes.
Luke Preisman.
Yes.
11 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, 4 absent. The reduction are approved. Okay, moving on. The next thing that we have on our agenda is our authorization to have left field submit our PMR to the MSBA, so I'll let the left field team take it over.
Just pass it around. There's just a couple of updates. So I know the PSR was circulated to the building committee, earlier this week. Just so everyone could put eyes on it in advance of this meeting. So there was a couple that were sent around, and we just want to run through sort of visuals on those, what we've been able to do since, everyone received that initial draft. One of them, there was a note, indicating that the, B 1.1 NP option was included as part of the initial consideration of options, but it wasn't sort of fully fleshed out in terms of drawings and tables and things associated with it. Just as a quick reminder, what that D 1.1 NP option was, is the NP was for no pool. And this was an MSBA requirement. They have this project advisory 96, basically says when you're considering an all new construction option as a standalone pool, you also have to include an option for consideration that does not have a standalone pool. It's not the same thing for an addition renovation option. This is solely for new construction options with what they refer to as natatorium. A natatorium is just a fancy word for a pool building. So we did have this D 1.1 NP option in there. There was pricing shared with it for it on June 1st, and when we presented it, we actually added it really at the tail end of the PDP phase in response to the MSBA reminding us that this needs to be included as part of the PSR considerations. The drawing that you see on the right-hand side is exactly the same as the D 1.1 option. There's just no pool building to it. It shows some plaza and landscaping outside it, and there's a cost that is also included as part of the PSR submission. So there's really not much to share other than just updating everyone that we did fill out the PSR report with all the requisite parts and pieces of this D 1.1 NP option, just for general disciplines. We understand that the pool has always been a very valuable part of the school and part of the project. We've heard that numerous times from the community as part of, so I don't think an NP option was going to be viable. This is really more about complying with what the MSBA was asking us to.
Any questions about the PSR?
So I have a comment. I'm gonna need all 3 minutes.
What?
Said I'm gonna need all 3 minutes. And go to comment. on this.
Okay,
So I noticed there was a new bed plan, it was dated June 5th. It was not on our June 10th agenda, and I never received a copy or, some undergoing changes. We had meetings on the 1st and the 10th, but I'm only getting the new bed plan first time you saw it. As a draft. For anyone who read the PSR, they gave you there's 2 copies of the ed plan, the original one from February and the new one from last week. The original one starts at page 266, the revised one starts at page 68. I think it's our business to know how to manage things. The ed plan is the foundation for why the budget is so unnaturally big. Within the community, don't understand that it's actually the school committee, not the building committee, that is causing the project to be so big. People naturally think that we as the school committee are responsible, it's wrong. But it seems to be perception. Because of that perception, the SBC will bear the broad public if the project continues to hover anywhere near largest, most expensive, yada. Second point, proposed space reductions here, they're great, but they're symbolic, they're less than 1% of the proposed 630,000 square feet. And some of those, I believe, belong with a gross effect. It's an easy guess, but I think there's a lot more evidence. The MSBA pointed to many places where the proposal exceeds guidelines, but we have a bunch. I'm not talking about non-high school spaces. There are many examples of oversized spaces that appear in that further there. This revised ed plan, it simply doubles down to argue that our community is collectively asking for all this space. So I worry, And my confidence continues to grow. I worry the MSBA will not be pleased with the PSR, and hopefully we can all laugh at it's wrong way, but we'll see. They'll send us feedback. I think MSBA perception matters. They don't read Medford Facebook pages, but they read PDPs, they read PSRs. Their perception matters because the estimated Medford share costs that were included in last meeting. Those are for like near historic reimbursements from the state, and those reimbursements are administered by the SBA. For example, 818 million minus 591 million is 227 million. That is a huge number. It's only been exceeded by and Revere is by far the most reimbursement of that in state history. I want us to have a relationship with the MSBA. I've taken lessons from Burlington. They skipped the MSBA. They asked their community to foot the entire bill for $335 million. Now they have to go back to the drawing board. That was only $330 million, not $607 million. And it was Burlington, a town with a huge commercial tax revenues. So that's our. Burlington's case, they have a decent fallback. Their fallback is they could try the MSBA approach now. They would try the alternative, now they can try the MSBA. For those on the committee with real professional experience on complex, expensive, multi-year projects, I asked, do you find it easier at less cost, make design changes early or late? Aerospace, I can tell you the answer is it's always cheaper to make for the changes early. It's always better to make changes before programmatic inertia comes on wheels. I speak for 25 years of the contract. I asked the committee to reflect on this. Are we using concepts and language with inclusivity to build a system that excludes? If we price people out of living here, then aren't excluding them from the benefits of this proposed complex? My vote is going to be no on the PSR until we get a project to a reasonable size and scope. I say, thank you.
Does anybody else have anything that they would like to ask or comment about before we vote on PSR? I have a question. Lisa?
So, I do recognize that a lot of the conversations that are happening in the community are about the cost. And when I reflect on my own shop, the space, and I understand a lot of the estimates right now that we're getting are based on square footage. I'm getting a larger line. So my space would be increased by about 1,000 square feet, plus I would be getting related. I believe that's following the guidelines, however, and I'm not sure about that. I also recognize that some of the increased space for the school is part of the vocational program. And I'm just wondering when would I be able to say, you know what, I don't need all this space, like some definitely gonna need the space that they're getting. My shops, I don't need as much space as I'm being allocated. I'm just not sure where that fits into the conversation and when.
I can take that. So Lisa, when we get to the programming meetings in the fall, we'll have an opportunity to have that dialogue to understand if we'll feel like there's too much space. I will say that the amount of space in a shop though is guided by DESI recommendations. And it's tied to the enrollment in the shop that you have. And not to say that we're always just going to look at current enrollment. We want to make sure that we're not looking forward in sort of thing. It also means that it's not an unlimited number. We can't just say that we might have 200 students in the shop, right? So that's going to be not viable in terms of the balance of the rest of programs. But can't talk about where we are versus the minimum. And if people are looking to reduce their above the minimum, what that means from an enrollment perspective. And there's a conversation that needs to happen. Chad, present for all the meetings as well, because he's looking at the balance of CT enrollment across all programs, right? And they're really all connected in terms of what students are interested in. We'll go back and we'll look at just trends as well, anticipations of which which shops are sort of growing enrollment and interest, maybe ones that are declining or staying stagnant. And understand sort of where you fit on that spectrum, and we'll try to just factor all in as we go, but we can't go over the minimums in terms of the enrollment. We have to let the enrollment sort of guide the size of the shop spaces. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I expect, I wasn't sure, like. Often it's not clear when we can express, like, oh, this doesn't, you know. That something doesn't quite make sense.
Yep.
So I just want to try that out.
Yeah, and when we're coming in the fall, we'll have layouts. That's the first time you look and see, like, this is where my related room and my shop space and storage, whatever the parts and pieces of the shop are, and we never get it right on first try, but it's basically showing like a way that we could put it together, and then we'll get feedback from everyone to say, no, we should move things around, too big, this needs to be over there, that type of thing, and that's, so it'll be much more, sort of interactive, I think, than our first programming meetings where we're just talking about what you want.
Yeah.
And sort of in the abstract, because we're not having the ability to look at a drawing or response.
If I can add to that, that is also not just applying to shops, that is applying to all of the
That's
programs
fair, yep.
in the space summary, so, so that work is slated to happen.
And I just want to say that I want to be clear that I'm not speaking for other shops there, their increased space of AV really needed, I just.
Yeah, and Lisa, I think if you're getting those questions, I would encourage teachers to reach out to Chad and Marta, like they are part of the leadership team of this project, with Dr. Galusi, with Dr. Talbot, with Ken, like they are the people who can help guide that input, but they also are here charged with building a building that will withstand whatever is gonna change in the next 50 years, so whether we think we need something exactly the way that we envision it today, I think what we know is that we will be wrong about that at some point. So trying to like weigh all of that in the balance is why there is an education leadership team and sort of the role that they play. So if there are people who are asking you those questions, I would direct them to Chat Marta. Maria?
I have a question. Well, I'm not sure if there's a question here. I think I'm looking for some clarity based on some of the things that Luke just said. So these changes were proposed back in April, that correct, Suzanne, that's
This is our April 27th meeting.
Yeah, and that's what I remember. Now, Luke, you were talking about changes in the ed plan that you noticed between June 1st and June 5th, or so dates like that.
There's actually two distinct separate ed plans in PSI. There's the one which originally released in February, and there's the second one that seems to be an update that was in the course of coordination for release. I looked at school committee.
It was approved on Monday night.
Okay, I didn't see that in the minutes, but you say it was, so I.
We don't have minute for that meeting yet.
Okay, so, the last minutes I looked at, I can see it approved. Regardless, there are two separate, related, but separate documents inside the PSR. One starts at page 280, the second starts at page 6 something.
Matt, can you answer why there's two?
Yeah, I just want to clarify, actually, I can understand sort of why it seems like there's the original one, but there are actually two different versions that are requested, required by MSBA to be submitted. It's the track changes version that shows all the revisions in red essentially, and then there's a clean version of that. It's the same document, but one of them shows changes from that prior version from February. And so that's what voted on at school committee. They do it just so that it's easy to see where changes were made. And I think it was useful for the school committee to see it and be able to understand what changes were. And sort of issue some sort for them. So it wasn't two different documents, it's the same document, just has the revisions highlighted and one that's not.
And the changes reflect the changes that were voted on at the 4/27 SBC meeting. So that's what those updates are.
Yeah, I recognize the track changes.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just surprised because they would have got a copy of the edit plan if there would have been February version. But it doesn't matter, I explain why it's in there.
Yeah.
It's counterintuitive to me, but I accept it, I understand it.
And the YouTube video from meeting on day night is available on our YouTube channel, and the education team did some framing about what did change in the ed plan. And sort of identified those things and walked through the space changes that also were reflected back in that plan. So I would encourage people who want more about that, to watch the meeting, that snippet of the meeting from Monday night. YouTube, yeah.
Yeah, I'll just follow up with that, that's why I had confusion, I wasn't sure if it was a chicken or an egg situation there, you know, it just wasn't clear to me.
Yeah.
But I do want to make comment too, based on what Lisa said, and I can support the school library, there is no one who would have predicted the changes that happened in the school library 10 years ago. It is so entirely different, no matter, you know, working in it every day, I could not have predicted how things would look today that they did, you know, back in 2015. So, it's definitely something that you know, you're just throwing a hat in the ring there and trying to make your best there, and I understand that. Yeah, so
And I think if there's confusion in the community about who owns the ed plan, you can direct them to the school committee, and the school committee would be happy to answer those questions, because the school committee is elected by the city to preside over the educational plan more broadly for the city of Medford, and specifically in this instance. So if people have questions, please, by all means, send them our way. We can field those questions.
So the only point I was raising was, and so I respect that the district writes the ed plan, the school committee has approval authority and I'll say editorial powers. Because ultimately they're approving the release of a version. I get all that. The point I was making was, we've got a stake in it too, right? Like, if we don't have any mechanism for feedback, then we're just like a one-way conduit for whatever the school committee decides with the ed plan. And then we have no feedback mechanism to say, well, this is to the school that's 630,000 square feet.
The school committee has heard, I just want to be perfectly clear. The school committee has heard that. They are sitting in the room, they are on the committee, they know, they're aware, and they take that just as seriously as everybody else does. How we are all choosing to deal with that seriousness is different, and I think that's okay, that's why we're a committee. But it is the job of the school building committee to create a building that supports the ed plan. If we don't do that, there is no reimbursement. So it is this committee's responsibility to map the ed plan. It is, that is the job of this committee.
It's also the point to make that the ed plan changed, and it recently was. And the ed plan, if the schools committee so chooses, could, in a hypothetical situation, be changed to the point where the code upgrade is reimbursed. That's a fact.
Sure.
The school committee could go back, rewrite portions of the ed plan and make the code upgrade actually a reimbursable project. That's
Hypothetically speaking, that's
And I'm
true.
not
That's
saying
not
that.
going to happen, so we have to vote.
No one on the committee is pushing that. I'm just saying, you can't say that the ed plan is, I'll say, not subject to feedback.
It is subject to feedback at the school committee. You're all welcome to attend.
The. If I may,
Lucy?
at the school committee. The overview that we gave was exactly what happened at the April 27th meeting. So that was for the community and for the greater school committee members, not on the SBC. So we literally went through the reductions, just like I went through to this body on April 27th. And then the only other thing were the pieces that MSBA actually suggested we do, like add headers to certain areas. Or just explain a little bit about, like, literally say, this is how you're educating students now, current, use the word current, and then use the word proposed. It was very scripted in a way, and then it was really just, this is from that April 27th meeting. And those will be the track changes that you see, and that was the update to the ed plan. There was nothing else in there.
Are there
And,
other?
and Dr. Talbot and I are happy to answer any questions that you may have about the ed plan. Especially Dr. Talbot.
if I may, through the chair, and I'm sorry I can't be there in person. I planned on being there. I'll give a little comic relief. I planned on being there, but I left City Hall, got stuck in the rainstorm, got in my car, realized I forgot to lock the office, and had to do it again. So I was soaking to the core. But I not to talk about the ed plan, but just to acknowledge what I think where I think Luke is coming from, which is just a fear of this being too big and too expensive. And we all want the same thing, which is to get that debt exclusion passed and to get to a place where we know it will pass for our kids and for our faculty. And I just want to point out, ed plan aside, that we spoke about it at the last meeting. There are two deliverables. The city is looking into the Curtis Tufts and that space where we think we got a quote that we're going to put before the council to appropriate the funds and have that evaluation done by Labor Day. And the city's also looking at the debt plan further out than obviously the next 10 years, which we know are tight. And then we spoke last week too about the second deliverable, and I do think, because some of these meetings are obviously internal. We had left field and I think the head of left field at our meetings, Dr. Calusi, myself, and Chair Graham. And that second deliverable is doing the hard work that we need to do this summer and then take, some tough votes over the fall. And I do feel that between deliverable number one and deliverable number two, I feel confident that the hard work will get done. So that's why I'm voting yes today. But I just wanted to say that I do hear Luke, with as far as as far as it goes with his concern for the space, and I've been talking about that, the space and the cost and the fear of what may happen if we can't get that successful vote. So I just wanted to put my perspective in and just let you know, Luke, you're heard by me, and just give you those thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments about the PSR? Paul?
I have one thing for the project team related to the DSR has the PP form, the space summary, the big giant table. And especially if we are going to work over the summer, I would just like to request that once the dust settles from this, if you could share a revised version of it and zoom in like an Excel or a Google Sheet or something like that. And then also, I would love to ask some questions that could be answered by sending us a document and don't need to be discussed here. One would be if there are any differences between DESI and MSBA reimbursement, there's only a column that shows the MSBA reimbursement, which obviously is extremely important. But it's likely to hear that some of the shop spaces, which might be larger than we currently need, come from things that we even if wanted to could not be reduced. So I think it would be helpful to know what those are. And then the second reason I'd love to have that in a format that is something that the community members can sort of look at and talk, and run scenarios with, would be if square footage really drives the costs, and if we're going to be looking for savings in costs, and some of the spaces which will be reimbursable are currently larger than what we're to be using. It feels like it would be helpful if we can have a way to summarize the bases in a way that we potentially could find solutions that result in using the capacity. That feels like a complicated test and potentially problems with we're going to go header by header, moving forward, never backwards. But I think if we had all of those things in one space before we embark on that, might be useful to be able to trade some of those spaces when we're getting to.
So, I don't think what you're describing is dissimilar from Jane Dr. who's described the intent of the plan over the summer. Certainly, we can find a way to share the updated space summary. It will be part of our report that it goes out because it becomes really a public document at that point. We'll have to figure out whether we can take an editable version of it. There's some, we saw it with cost comparison matrix. When it goes out there, it's editable. It has challenges in terms of maintaining fidelity of how the math is working. The formulas are sort of embedded within it. But we can find something that gives you the necessary, visibility to it and understanding of it, that is the story.
And what I'm proposing is not, like, we would take this and then mark it up and give it back to you, it would be one way. And then any changes would only first go through, so it's approved and then. So.
Yeah, I think if we will get to a copy of the space summary. If you have questions, thoughts, or suggestions, they go to Dr. Galusi so that she can ingest that work that she's doing. Where they're gonna sit in the room with all the educators at the table and talk about that. I think like welcoming suggestions without burying the team in minutia. Would be really productive and welcome. But I do want the committee to like think carefully about supporting the educational leaders of our community in the work that they're going to do to bring this stuff over. I want them to lead the things coming forward. Because otherwise we end up with lists of hundreds of things, some of which are not even able to be changed. And I want to try to avoid that going forward because I don't think it worked that great last time. So if there are questions, if there are suggestions, if there are changes, getting them to Dr. Galusi, I think is the right way to make sure they're heard and vetted before they come to this body. So that when they come here, there's an educational justification. In addition to just like, you know, hey, did we think about that kind of thing? Brian?
Is it safe to say that some of the, we're saying the action areas, if you have those 50, all the other things, there's planning that goes into that. There is maybe a lack of representation. Gets filtered through, and there are other people who can react to what is being shown, because there are going to adjustments made at a high level. And with the more granular level, it's our job to have that. And make decisions, or take suggestions, I should say. To ask, can we have,
Yeah.
can we say that there's time that
We'll create like an endpoint, right, where like there's like a cleanup of any last things, yeah.
and make
And put that on the
that,
schedule.
let's just say, I realize that you have your expertise and react to how they would have perhaps say those adjacencies. Those square footages can be challenged something in the suggestion. So it's sort of trickle down to us too. Everybody, yes, that makes sense.
Yes, that makes sense.
Okay,
Could I humbly say that people should use the superintendent for document or email address instead of Galusi, which is a really scary place. And I don't want to miss any of the feedback. Thank you.
Alright,
I have a quick question. I know that when we were doing, I think it was during the eligibility period, when the team met with all our educators and did all the space surveys and things like that. There was a lot of discussion about how the ed plan was developed over time and understanding like what the space is actually used for. And as we move forward with development and trying to reduce and things like that, you know, obviously it was mentioned that there are some of the spaces seem like they're bigger than currently needed. Not necessarily understanding per se, but I want to have additional clarity about what that specifically is in MSBA guidelines. Is there going to be an opportunity to have further discussion? Sounds like there is, where we're going to be meeting with educators again to have further discussion, individual shop spaces, classroom spaces, shared workspaces, like those types of things, to better understand what you believe in the ed plan or what the ed plan is currently detailing, or what is the current need of educators, and then the projection over the next 15 to 20 years, let's say. I know that a lot of work was done to understand like the student population growth over the next X number of years as a part of the development of the total number. That was a lot of words, but I just try to understand like what it will look like in the next handful of months when it comes to the interaction with the school staff and things like that. Yeah.
So the beginning of the interaction with the school staff will start at the beginning of the fall, whenever it's back, we just don't have access to people over the summer. That being said, we both are finding the folks that are here over the summer, if we can get any of it taken care of across the summer, that's definitely good productive time that we can make use of and share back with SPC as we go. right? But when we get to the fall programming meetings, and we are meeting with all 50 groups again, it definitely will include all instructors, as Jen was saying earlier, both on the academic side departments as well as shops. And so those conversations will focus on both an update of sort of what we're seeing there. They will refresh everyone's memory in terms of what capacities, or sizes, individual spaces, and this is different for everything, but those are tuned to. And I think we're unfortunately gonna have to take a lot of Dr. Calusi's time to sit through those meetings, because she's gonna need to hear the conversations as well as we go through and be able to bring sort of that understanding of ed plan and sort of future of district, as well as from individual educators that we're speaking with or user groups that we're speaking with. So we need to balance sort of those two sets of inputs. That's sort of what Lisa was alluding to earlier. She has a perception, the size of the space, that perception may not align necessarily with what we're asked to be doing, either from MSBA perspective or in case of CT with SE like Pastor Law. So we need to balance all those things and figure out what the path forward, but we definitely be looking both at the big picture goals of each individual program, as well as sort of more minutia pieces of an individual space layout, where they are in the building before that kind of thing.
Yeah, thank you. And I think to that end, I think Johnny mentioned about the minutia of all these things that could be going, obviously incredibly difficult to follow all the things that are happening with the committee and then community who has questions as we get closer to actual clarity about the development of it. I wondered, and it sounds like it's gonna happen to a certain degree, but I think, obviously there's a lot of conversation about understanding what's really happening at the speed at which it's happening. When we talk about the educators understanding like what their current needs are versus what the projections are, and then as you mentioned, it's via guidelines versus the ed plan or what our team is developing. Are there ways for us to kind of track those additional changes and the differences between the two of them? If there are those specific changes, and again, that's a kind of a ridiculous request in this very moment because what was to say. But I'm only asking, I think that I don't want people to feel as though that you need to lose something. I don't want people to feel that we're just trying to just create without any real consideration about the current team of the student body and the teaching staff without considering or explaining what our reasoning is, because the education plan is long and it is very nuanced. And I want people to understand that, at least from my perspective as a school committee member, we put a lot of work into this because we believe this is what is the best for the students. And I don't want people to think that we're trying to do something that's untoward without having real clarity about what's happening. And again, I understand that right, it's not the time to decide as we don't have a lot of information from each educator, but I do wonder about that going forward. So that people understand what the reasoning is about the differences, if there are differences. I don't know that there always will be, but it's just a question or a comment, I guess.
Thank you.
Point of information?
Same week. We will not be involved as well, obviously the actual education,
Correct.
we will.
Correct.
And I hope you're not suggesting we will get a regurgitation conversation and have a different shop, but that's a way to do it. Okay, so you're saying we get a committee.
Yeah, so I should be a little more clear. When I say we, I mean, I think like the project team, the superintendent's office and the educators. So sorry, I should be really clear there. Yeah, I think when I say we, I just mean that. And again, like this, it's been mentioned a handful of times over the last couple of months, a lot of conversation about transparency and clarity and understanding what's been going on. And I don't want people to get lost because it's a ton of information over a number of years. And I want us to feel, I keep saying me, I want me to feel that everyone has their answers, right? Whether they like the answers or not, whether they feel like the answers are giving the responses to what we for. People, the community feels that they understand what's going on. So moving forward, it doesn't feel like a larger conversation we have. If there's other things we can do to mitigate some of the confusion that's happening. So yeah, sorry, I'm saying we.
I guess as a response, I don't have an exact response or sort of approach. I think it's a good point. Maybe what we can do is think it's after all those 50 meetings that we're going to be having, we do generate meeting minutes, so that is there for anyone to want to spend the time going through it. It is really individual for each one of the programs. We could share maybe a typical set of meeting minutes that comes out schematic design just to see from another project to see if that has the level of information that you're interested in. And if not, we can talk about maybe what wants to get documented there. And that could be a talking point that we start with or during particular meetings as we go through them, maybe as like.
Well, and I think the other thing that we have done along the way is we have gone to teacher staff meetings. We dedicated time at one of the PD days, like as we look into next year and have some clarity about these things, those explainers can happen in those other ways too, because I think to your point, what's important is that the educators who come to work here every single day understand like how does this transpire? And what does it actually look like and where have we made changes? And then, you know, what will it look like and what's the end state? So I think there is an opportunity as part of the communication plan for the next phase to make sure that the educators sort of have that understanding of the process too. So we can help to put those things on the calendar for next year.
If I may. I would say like, right now we're at a level of like. Eating, drinking, breathing, sleeping, this. And so. You know, I feel like we probably feel more comfortable with it because we're doing it a lot, but I do think. For. Maybe even this team, the community, to your point, teachers. I think. It would be helpful to have something visible that are beyond maybe like minutes, that are more. Process memo, track changes, or if I think of the space summary. You know, you add a column that's. Kind of highlighting what came out of those meetings, if it was. To Lisa's point, a reduction in her, like, or something, just so that it's transparent. And
Well,
visual.
And I think, I've been making this request of the team since like day one, which is that space summary and how it is laid out is not user friendly, it's not intuitive, it doesn't explain things. It's sufficient, it does a job that the MBA needs and wants it to do, but that's not serving us as a community, and in the next phase, have to spend some time serving Medford and helping people get behind, like, here's the evolution of this building, because people have a lot of interest in care, making sure that we are spending money the right way. So we are gonna have to do that. We're gonna have to have a bootleg version for Medford that makes it clear for people what is happening. And we never have to submit it to the MSBA, but we need people to be able to understand that document.
I'm happy to do that, but
Absolutely. Anyway, you said you had time.
Alright,
Luke?
so I want to know that there are, pretty effective, like virtual meeting tools that exist. I don't know if Zoom supports it, but so does, where you record, you can do some transcript, which is okay. And then it'll do some AI summary, and I figure out how to generate a summary. Then you can cross-check through the lease. That is not the 8 pages of transcript, but it is a focus in 3-4 paragraph synopsis. And then with that recording also includes video, you can see who spoke where. And I mean, I use it at work, you know, to sort of catch up. Teams. I don't know who offers it or if there are other tools that are available, but I would recommend in the spirit of capturing the feedback of educators, but not being overwhelmed with the word by word transcript. You can look at any available tools that are not prohibitively expensive, to maybe accommodate that.
Are there any other questions about the PSR submission, Brian?
Just one more quick, it's for the design team. I would assume that that's sort of like Lisa's point of view with sheet light reduction in her space, income tuition. It gets, you know, it gets tracked through the square footages. You can see that that's a. And then it's a loaded plan. If you can just follow those, you can just see the delta is from. As a result of all these meetings, I think to me that's the easiest way to be able to track all the changes.
We will roll out a tracker on the website to show, because we've already done many changes. And that table was shared at the school committee meeting. It looks exactly like the table that's in this in the meeting notice that we just approved. And that's on purpose, to use that frame so that we can show what has happened over time and when. And so we'll be working to put that on the website so people can see it.
That's very cut and dry.
Yeah.
You don't have to sit through hours of video.
Correct,
And there it is. That's the result.
right.
That's all we need. All changes. This. I prefer spreadsheets too, but I'm drawn to that. But I also respect the point that context is important, especially with the time that space, so. I'm not all so.
Is there a motion to approve the PSR?
Motion to approve.
Hi, Aaron. There's a second. By Dr. Belusi. I'm gonna call the roll.
Jenny, if I just do a quick discussion. So we
Sorry.
did have one additional slide up here, that is following on to that email that was sent around with the draft. There were some yellow added elements or things that we're still working on and finishing. Because of the cost, the square foot reductions that we're talking about. We went back and got the cost estimator back and look and make those reductions. So that was part of the yellow highlighted information that was in the draft that we read through. So along the top line there, are costs that you all saw previously, at the June 1st meeting. From total project cost is what we're talking about here. From the A1, the NP option all the way across, the high school only option as well. Right below that are the revised figures that we got back from the cost estimator, that were across, and the delta is down below that. Again, they're all reductions that were there. There were some items that the cost estimator noticed going through, and that's why you see some higher numbers as they were just checking all their numbers going through it. But the general story there is that we have reduced dollar values across the board for the total project cost. So just as we're voting that in, we just want to make sure that folks are aware of those numbers that be.
Great, thank you. And I just want to thank the project team because they have done a wonderful job on all of this work. Also, in maintaining a good, positive, productive relationship with the MSBA. I got to see that in a meeting, and the MSBA was incredibly complimentary. They are very supportive. And that was clear and evident that you all are doing exactly what they want and need you to do and for Medford to do. So I just want to say thank you for that before we vote. This is a lot of work. And I hope that we can tell the SBA that we all approve. I'll call the roll. Jenny Graham, yes. Mayor Longo Kern.
Yes.
Dr. Belusi, yes. Marty Cabral is absent. Joan Bowen,
Yes.
Ken Lord,
Yes.
Libby Brown, absent. Marissa Desmond is absent. Maria Dorsey.
Yes.
Hilliard,
Yes.
Emily Lazaro,
Yes.
Paul Malone,
Yes.
Nicole Morel is absent. Aaron Lopate.
Yes.
Luke Preisner.
No.
10 in the affirmative, 1 in the negative, 4 absent. PSR is approved for submission. Thank you. We're almost there, folks. Bear with us. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the CM at risk RQ. So the RQ, the CM selection subcommittee has met, has reviewed this RQ. It went out to all of you. And the plan is that it will be released in the central register on July 1. And in order to do that, we need this body's approval. So are there any questions about the application? Are there any motions about the application?
Move the RQ be approved as noted.
Motion to approve by Ken, is there a second?
Yep.
By Brian? We'll call the roll. Jenny Graham, yes. Mayor Longo Kern.
Yes.
Dr. Belusi.
Yes.
Marty Cabral. Libby Brown. Joan Bowen.
Yes.
Ken Lord.
Yes.
Marissa Desmond. Maria Dorsey.
Yes.
Brian Harrod.
Yes.
Emily Lazaro.
Yes.
Paul Malone.
Yes.
Nicole Morel. Aaron Lopate.
Yes.
Luke Preisner.
Abstain.
10 in the affirmative, 0 negative, 1 abstention, 4 absent. The CM application is approved. we are working on our schedule of upcoming meetings. This is a quick timetable of the CM timeline, which we just talked about. So the very first part of this process will kick off on July 1. And our plans will be that we will, by early October, make a selection and bring it to this body for approval. And then Helen, I think you had a slide about upcoming committee meetings. This list is subject to change and we will send out the final confirmed list for you all. We will give you a list and read out what it is that we plan to talk about at each time, and we'll be publishing that so that if people in the community really want to talk about the auditorium, they know to come and do that. If people in the community really want to talk about the pool, they know when to come do that. If they want to talk about classroom spaces, they know when to do that. We are trying to space them out so that it is not overwhelming for folks, and that we are saving some of the meatier things for after the start of school when the programming meetings happen. So we're trying to work through this timeline and make sure that we're making good productive progress at every meeting that we have, and we do have a monthly meeting schedule. Meetings in the summer will be on Zoom only, and we will resume in person after the start of school. Any questions? I was kidding. Okay, is there a motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn by Luke, seconded by Dr. Lucy. Call the roll. Jenny Graham, yes. Mayor Linda Kern,
Yes.
Dr. Lucy. Yes. Meredith Cabral. Absent. Joan Bowen.
Yes.
And Lord.
Yes.
Brown is absent. Marissa Desmond is absent. Maria Dorsey. Yes. Brian Hilliard.
Yes.
Emily Lazaro.
Yes.
Paul Malone.
Yes.
Paul Morrell. Absent. Aaron Olapati.
Yes.
Luke Preisner.
Yes.
11 in the affirmative, 1 in the negative. The meeting is adjourned. The PSR is approved, and we made it. So thank